I was recovering from surgery when my MIL stormed into our bedroom and said, "You're not entitled to rest in my son's house." My husband watched her rip my fore out, saying, "Maybe you shouldn't act so fragile." I couldn't believe it until I heard him laugh and say, "She's always playing victim." I packed my bag with one hand. The other clutched what I had just found hidden in his drawer. That changed. I had surgery on a Tuesday. Laparoscopic, but still serious. 3 incisions in my lower stomach and 1 right at my belly button. It wasn't cosmetic. I had a fibroid pressing on my bladder, and it had gotten so bad I couldn't sleep through the night. The doctor said it had to come out. Derek didn't come to the hospital. He said work was busy, and besides, I'd be out of it anyway. Said it made more sense for him to pick me up the next day. I didn't argue. I was tired of arguing. We'd been together 6 years. Married for 3. I met him when I was 33, and at the time I thought he was a grown man, stable, calm, mature. That was what I wanted. After years of dating men who were either needy or reckless, Derek seemed solid. And for a while he was. But then his mom moved back to Illinois. Teresa had been living in Florida after her divorce. She and Derek talked on the phone now, and then nothing too deep. But when her second marriage fell apart, she came back, temporarily, she said. And Derek invited her to stay in the guest room. That was a year ago. She never left. And the house started to feel less like mine. She criticized everything. The way I cooked. The way I cleaned. The way I didn't fold Derek's socks the way she used to. I brushed it off at first. But then it got worse. She'd talk over me at dinner, always making herself the center of attention. Derek would just smile like it was cute, like I was being sensitive. I stopped eating dinner with them. I'd eat late in the kitchen after they were done. That's how small I let myself become. But back to the surgery. When I got home, Derek helped me up the stairs, laid me on the bed, and that was it. No pillow fluffing, no checking if I needed water, nothing. Just, "You good?" And he walked out. Teresa brought me soup the first night. Sat it down on the nightstand with a smile so fake it chilled me. "You should be grateful Derek's letting you rest in his house. He's not used to having dead weight upstairs." I thought I misheard. I was groggy from meds. But she looked me dead in the eye and said it again clearer. I said nothing. I turned away. I needed rest. Then came Friday. I heard the front door slam open around 9 a.m. I was half asleep, curled on my side. My stomach ached like it had been sewn up with barbed wire. Teresa stomped up the stairs, muttering under her breath. She flung open our bedroom door without knocking. Her voice was sharp and loud. "You're not entitled to rest in my son's house." I blinked, confused. She walked over and started pulling the blanket off me. "You're milking this. It was a simple surgery. Don't act like you gave birth." I tried to sit up. I told her to get out. Then she did it, grabbed the 4-line tape to my arm and yanked. Pain shot through me. I screamed. Blood started dripping from the site. I clutched my arm and stared at her, stunned. Derek walked in. He looked at the blood, then looked at me. "Maybe you shouldn't act so fragile," he said. And then he laughed. Not a loud belly laugh. Just a quiet, smug little chuckle. "She's always playing victim," he said to Teresa. I froze. In that moment, I felt something break. Like a crack in the foundation of everything I believed. I got out of bed slowly, each movement making me want to pass out. I gritted my teeth. Teresa was still standing there, smug. Derek had his phone in his hand, already tuned out. I opened his dresser. I don't know why. Maybe I was looking for a charger or socks. Maybe I just needed something of mine to feel like I still existed. That's when I saw the envelope. Folded tight. Stuck behind some t-shirts. It was a bank statement. Savings account. In Derek's name only. Balance. $93,482.11. I froze. I remembered the exact number from my mom's will. $100,000 even. I remembered trusting him when he said he'd invest it for us. He said I was grieving and shouldn't worry about it. that I could look at the paperwork later. I never did. Now I knew why. He took my inheritance and hid it, just like he let his mother rip into me. Just like he stood there and laughed while I bled on our sheets. I packed my bag with one hand, trembling the whole time. Grabbed what I could. The pain was unbearable, but the anger helped. I didn't even say goodbye. I walked out the door and drove, half in tears, half in rage, all the way to my best friend Mel's place. That night, I lay on her couch, clutching the bank statement, my arm bandaged up, and I made a promise to myself. I wasn't just going to leave. I was going to ruin the man who thought I was weak. I didn't sleep that first night at Mel's. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Teresa's face leaning over me, yanking that fur like I was some stray animal on her furniture. I saw Derek laughing. Heard his voice. She's always playing victim. I kept checking the envelope over and over, like the numbers might change. But it was there.
Clear as day.
My name nowhere on it. Mel tried to talk to me, but I couldn't even explain it all at once. It came out in pieces. When she saw the bruise forming on my arm where the fur was ripped, she almost drove back to the house herself. The next morning, I called my sister, Elaine, in Des Moines.
Told her everything.
She wasn't surprised, not really. She always thought Derek was a little too image-conscious. Said he cared more about what other people thought of him than how he treated the people closest to him. Elaine gave me the number of her attorney. Said I needed to protect myself. That same day, I froze our joint account. Derek called that evening. I didn't answer. Then came the text, "WTF did you do to the bank account? You're being insane. Call me." Then another 5 minutes later. "You're making this worse than it needs to be. Let's talk."
No epalegi.
No acknowledgement of what happened. Just entitlement. I didn't respond. 2 days later, I got a call from our mutual friend Jen. She said Derek had told everyone I had a breakdown after surgery. That I'd left him without warning. That I was going through something emotional and needed space. He was laying the groundwork to paint me as unstable. I knew what he was doing. This was reputation warfare. And I wasn't going to play defense. I started documenting everything. I had Mel take pictures of my arm, my medications, even the blood-stained blanket I'd tossed in a trash bag. I downloaded every email and text between me and Derek going back 3 years. Anything that showed how I'd supported him, how he'd asked to temporarily move my inheritance into an account for us. Then I called the bank. The rep confirmed what I suspected. Derek had opened the savings account 2 days after my mom's funeral. He used his name only. When I asked if they had a record of the deposit source, the woman hesitated, but I heard it in her tone. She knew something wasn't right. I called Elaine's attorney the next morning. Her name was Dana Pierce.
Sharp, no nonsense.
I liked her immediately. She said 2 words that lit a fire in me. Financial abuse. Dana told me I had options, but we had to act fast and smart.
Divorce was the obvious one.
But we could also go after him for fraud, misappropriation of funds, emotional abuse, even. But that wasn't enough for me. I wanted him exposed.
Publicly.
I asked Dana if I could go after him for slander. He was already spreading lies. She said possibly, but advised me to keep gathering evidence. She told me to let him talk. The more he ran his mouth, the better it'd be when we hit him with everything at once. The next day, I filed for divorce. The papers were delivered to the house by a private process server, right in front of Teresa. That same evening, Derek posted a long, self-pitying rant on Facebook. Sometimes people you trust most let you down when you're already dealing with stress. I won't say much, but please respect my privacy while I deal with someone trying to destroy my peace and reputation. He even included a picture of himself and his mom on the porch. I stayed quiet. Until I wasn't. I created a burner Facebook account. Posted screenshots of his texts. The bank statement. Even a voice memo I had from months ago where he admitted to moving the money temporarily but told me not to worry because you don't really know how this stuff works. The posts spread fast. People we knew, coworkers, old friends. Some of them reached out to me in shock. Others went quiet. Then came the call I'd been waiting for, his employer. They'd seen the screenshots. Derek worked in financial planning. And suddenly, he had a problem bigger than me. 3 days after I posted the screenshots, Dana called me. "You're not going to believe this," she said. Apparently, Derek's company, an investment advisory firm in Oak Brook, had launched an internal investigation. Someone had anonymously emailed them the Facebook post and screenshots. Most likely one of his coworkers or clients. I hadn't done it, but I wasn't complaining. That account Derek used to stash my inheritance? Turns out, he'd used the same bank and client ID he handled work investments through.
Sloppy.
And stupid. Dana explained that mixing personal and client funds, even if they're separate, is a serious red flag in finance. If the firm believed he was capable of financial misconduct with his own wife, they had to question his ethical standards across the board. Then came the second twist. Remember Teresa? She wasn't just freeloading at her house. She was listed on a second account Derek had opened 6 months ago, again, without my knowledge. I didn't find this out through the bank. I found it out from a mutual friend who worked there and had quietly flagged it to me once things started unraveling. That account had $11,000 in it, all transferred from our joint checking over time. He'd been slowly siphoning money, my income too, into a hidden account with his mother. This wasn't just a betrayal. This was a conspiracy. Dana filed a petition to freeze all of Derek's accounts, citing intentional concealment of marital assets. She also submitted a complaint to the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation. Things moved fast after that. His employer suspended him pending investigation. Teresa was suddenly real quiet. She even sent me a text one night, just one sentence. "You've made your point." I didn't respond. Then, one morning, Mel came into the living room with a weird look on her face. "You need to see this," she said, handing me her phone. It was a Reddit post. In one of those men's rights forums. An anonymous account had written a long, bitter post about a vindictive wife who had stolen his money, smeared him online, and destroyed his career over a misunderstanding. It had a familiar ring to it. But what gave him away was one line. "My mother tried to help and got attacked for it." He was trying to play the victim now. Desperate. Pathetic. Comments were brutal. Some believed him. Most didn't. I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. Because now, I had enough leverage to do what I'd been planning quietly for weeks. I wasn't just going to win in court. I was going to take that house. The one Teresa had walked around in like it was hers. The one I'd been told I didn't belong in. I was going to make sure she never set foot in it again. And I was going to use Derek's own words on paper, on record, and online to do it. I hadn't been back to the house since that day Teresa ripped the 4 out of my arm. But I knew every inch of it. The creaky stair, the chipped tile by the laundry room, the master bath drawer where Derek kept his receipts in a crumpled mess. That was going to help me. Dana helped file an emergency motion to access the house to retrieve my belongings and document shared marital property. The judge granted it. I was legally entitled to enter with a court-appointed officer. But I didn't go alone. Mel came with me, along with a private home inventory specialist Dana recommended. A woman named Carla. She had a clipboard, a camera, and zero tolerance for games. We showed up on a Monday morning. Teresa was there. She opened the door, then froze when she saw the officer's badge. "You can't just," she started. "Yes, we can." The officer cut her off. "You've been served. You were informed." She scurried to her room and slammed the door. Carla walked through every room with me, taking photos and cataloging valuables, artwork, electronics, furniture, even the good silver set Derek insisted was a wedding gift from one of his clients. That one was going on the joint asset list, despite his lies. Then we got to the bedroom. My side of the closet was empty, just wire hangers and a pile of old shoes. But Derek's dresser was still full. I opened the bottom drawer. There it was, a manila folder labeled tax stuff. Inside were documents, bank statements, property tax bills, even emails he'd printed out. And something else, a handwritten note from Teresa. "Just keep everything separate until after it's finalized. She doesn't deserve what she didn't build." Her handwriting. Her words. It was dated 2 weeks before I even filed. They'd been planning this before I even left. I took a photo. Then another. The officer didn't say a word. By the time we left, I had 3 boxes of clothes, 2 flash drives, and a full list of shared property Dana could now argue for in court. But that note, that was different. That was personal. We drove back to Mel's place. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I sat there calm, steady, numb, until Dana called that afternoon. Good news, she said. His employer decided not to wait for the full investigation. They terminated his position. Effective immediately. I didn't ask why. I already knew. He was toxic. His ego had been leaking through for years. They just needed a reason. That night, I drafted a letter to the state licensing board. Attached everything. Bank records, screenshots, Teresa's note, even Derek's Reddit post. Then I sent one more message. To Teresa. No words. Just a photo. Of the note she wrote, with her ugly little sentence underlined in red. I waited. The read receipt came up. Then nothing. Not a single reply. Because she knew. They both knew what was coming next. 2 days after I sent the photo to Teresa, I got a call from Derek. Blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. When I played it back, I sat in silence while his voice came through, shaky and slower than usual. You don't have to go this far. This is your anger talking. You already ruined my job. What more do you want? Can we just... I don't know. Can we talk? I replayed that line 3 times. You already ruined my job. Not I'm sorry I lied. Not I stole from you. Not even you didn't deserve that. Just more of him making himself the victim. Just like he said, I always did. I didn't call back. Instead, I met with Dana. She was holding a thick file when I walked in, everything we had so far, and it was enough. Enough to prove financial abuse. Enough to show he'd violated marital trust, committed potential fraud, and used joint funds to funnel cash to his mother behind my back. But she said something else that stuck with me. You don't just want the house. You want it to mean something when you take it. She was right. So we filed an amended complaint with the court asking for exclusive possession of the home based on misconduct and evidence of concealment. We weren't just dividing assets. We were making the case that Derek had knowingly manipulated and financially isolated me while hiding marital property. That he and his mother had colluded to cut me out entirely. A hearing was set. Derek showed up in a wrinkled suit. Notie. Red eyes. He looked smaller than I remembered. Teresa didn't come. Probably too ashamed or too scared. His lawyer made a half-hearted attempt to argue that the money was an oversight and that I had access to the joint account during the marriage. Dana shredded that argument in 5 minutes flat. Then she dropped the final piece. The note from Teresa. She handed the judge a copy. He read it. Didn't say much. But his face said everything. By the end of the hearing, the judge ruled that I was entitled to exclusive use of the marital residence and awarded me temporary spousal support based on Derek's prior income. Dana told me that once the divorce was finalized, we'd be filing for asset compensation equal to the full amount of the inheritance he'd stolen, plus penalties. But I didn't even smile. Not yet. Because this wasn't over. After court, I went back to the house for the first time alone. Teresa had already moved out. Dana made sure of that with a cease and desist letter after we got possession. The place was quiet. Still smelled like their cheap candle wax and cologne. I walked upstairs, opened the master closet, and stood there a moment. Then I opened every drawer, every cabinet, every inch of space she used to claim as hers. And I started tossing things into trash bags. Old photo albums of Derek's childhood?
Gone.
Her coffee mugs with little cat faces on them? Smashed. I wasn't keeping souvenirs. I was clearing space. Because this house, this place I was told I didn't deserve to rest in, it was mine now. And the part that made it perfect? They both knew it. 3 weeks after the hearing, the final pieces started coming together. Derek's financial license was officially suspended. The board launched a formal review citing ethical concerns and client trust violations. That meant he couldn't legally work in finance anywhere in the state until the matter was resolved. And the best part? Every job he applied for from that point on would pull that report. It wouldn't be a red flag. It would be a flare gun. He tried to fight it, filed a counterclaim through his lawyer, trying to say I publicly defamed him and cost him his career. Dana sent them 100 pages of evidence in response, screenshots of his Reddit post, the hidden account, the paper trail of every penny he touched that wasn't his. His counterclaim was dropped in 5 days. After that, he stopped trying. I heard from Jen, our old mutual friend, that he moved into a tiny rental in Elgin. Said he was keeping a low profile. But it wasn't just the job. It was his reputation. That Facebook post never went away. It got shared and reshared by people we both knew. And when the screenshots of his messages and the Teresa notes started circulating, even his inner circle began backing away. No more barbecues. No more golf invites. No more defending both sides. He was a man who'd built his whole identity on being respected. And now, he couldn't walk into a grocery store without wondering who'd seen the post, who knew what he did, who whispered after he passed.
And Teresa?
She went radio silent. Word was she left the state again, this time for Nevada. Nobody knew if she went to live with a cousin or just disappeared. But I knew why she left. She couldn't stand the silence. Because she lost everything she thought she had power over. That house. I gutted it. I sold the furniture. Repainted every wall she picked out. Had contractors come in and rip out the ugly tile backsplash she installed in the kitchen. Then I staged it, listed it, and sold it. I didn't need it. I just needed them to know they couldn't keep it. The day the closing finalized, I took one last walk through the empty living room. Light came through the clean windows. It smelled like fresh paint, like none of them had ever lived there. I stood in the doorway, holding the final check from the sale. It was enough to pay off every debt he left behind and still start over somewhere clean, somewhere quiet. I didn't cry. I didn't gloat. I just walked out and locked the door behind me. It's been 8 months. I live in Madison now. Got a 2-bedroom apartment near the lake. It's quiet here.
Clean.
Nobody barges in uninvited. Nobody tells me I'm too fragile or calls me a victim when I'm just in pain. I started going to physical therapy again. My stomach still pulls sometimes when I stretch too far, but the scars are fading. I touch them now and feel nothing sharp, just memory. Mel visited last month. She brought wine, and we sat on the balcony wrapped in blankets, watching the lights flicker off the water. You really did it, she said. You burned the whole thing down.
And yeah,
I did. But not out of rage. That's the part people never understand. It wasn't about revenge to destroy him. It was about making things true. About making what was stolen visible. About dragging what they did into the light until even they couldn't pretend it didn't happen. I never got an apology. Not from Derek. Not from Teresa. But I didn't need one. Because now he has to live with what he is. A man who betrayed someone who trusted him. A man who laughed while I bled. A man who lost everything, not because I ruined his life, but because he tried to steal mine and failed. And her? She got exactly what she spent years warning me about. She's alone. Not respected. Not feared. Just forgotten. As for me, I'm not rebuilding. I'm not returning to some version of who I was. I'm starting clean. From the first day I left with my hand on my stitches and my other on that envelope, I stopped being the one who needed protecting.
And now?
Now I protect myself. And I never wait for someone else to give me a place to rest. Not in their house. Not in their life. Never again.